Welcome back to another episode of Local Search Tuesdays. This week's video is another longer one because I spoke at an event in Salt Lake City last week and I'm sharing my entire presentation. Last week, I flew up to Salt Lake City to present at the Utah DMC monthly event. It's a really awesome digital marketing meetup, and I gave a pretty awesome presentation about creating and delivering better SEO reports. It's about 30 minutes long, so kick back and enjoy. This is Freddy Krueger's Guide to Scary Good Reporting. Y'all know who I am because you're watching this on my video series. But if it's the first time you're watching, make sure you check out my videos every week. And as you've probably heard me say in the past, you know I speak at a lot of conferences, and sometimes you see those presenters who aren't as great at presenting and public speaking, even though they might have some awesome info to share. Typically, the background of their slides is just plain white, and it's black Arial font, and they pack every slide with bullet points, and they just sit there and read bullet points all day long. And it's a scientifically proven fact that bullet points kill kittens. So today's presentation will be entirely kitty safe. And you know, I love the movie thing. There's always a movie theme when I do a presentation. And today we're doing horror movies. So we've got 110 references to horror movies with at least one for every year in the last 50 years. And for those of you that are younger, there is attribution over to the side. So you'll have a kick-ass list of movies to watch after you learn about how to make awesome reports. And I know some of you might be a little freaked out that it is horror movies, but I can tell you the scariest thing you're going to see is the 80s fashion. So why the long face? Do you need a hand making your reports better? Lucky for you, I've got a few to spare. I know a lot of times people lose their heads over the reports that they deliver to their clients because they're stressed about what to show or what not to show or what's working or what's not. But you don't have to bend over backwards to make your clients happy with awesome reports. I'm going to share some tips with you today that'll help your reports rock your clients' faces off. And in fact, it's pretty much going to turn everybody's head. But I got to start by being brutally honest. I don't even have to see them to know that your SEO reports are freaking terrible. You're tracking the wrong metrics and you're overloading clients with far too much information. And beyond that, you're sharing pointless information and you're not even connecting anything in the report to your client's business goals. So let's look at a few real world examples of some scary bad reports. I have blurred the client information and agency information to protect the innocent and the not so innocent. This one report that a client received is just an automated report straight out of Google Analytics turned into a PDF. Not very valuable. And sometimes this same agency provides reports that they scan in so that they can include handwritten notes, which is awesome, right? And this is a report that we saw from another potential client that we talked to that was nothing but ranking data. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but ranking data is a really bad idea. And then it goes to pages and pages and pages of how this business ranked for various keywords. And then after 4 pages of useless ranking data, we get some meaningless Google Analytics data with no real context of anything to show what's going on. And then for some reason after that, there's a location breakdown and channel breakdown. But why would this US-based business care to see that there is traffic from India and Pakistan and Finland and the Philippines? It makes no sense. And this next report is from a very well-known agency. And the report just leads with a bunch of ranking grids and more ranking grids. And then a list of all the things that they did that month. And these are all pretty scary, right? They're not great. So I'm going to help you create reports that are scary good. So think about why we create and deliver client reports. There's 2 real reasons. Number 1 is job protection. We want to prove that we're worth it. And number 2 is client understanding. We want to prove to the client that things are working or help the client understand that things are working because most clients don't know how to tell. The most important thing to understand is that monitoring things is not reporting on things. Those dashboards that you use to monitor internal metrics that matter to what we do for SEO aren't really something you should just share with a client and say, hey, here's your monthly report. Just because we care about something for the job that we need to do doesn't mean that the client cares or that it's even important to their business. Remember that clients can log into analytics at any point in time. So if you're just parroting back that information, there's no value for the client. Your report needs to provide additional value to the client. So if that's the case, why do we keep jumping on these monthly reporting calls and just reading back lots of numbers that the clients can read for themselves out of Google Analytics? And most of the time, the client doesn't care about. Clients have an unconscious bias towards digital marketing agencies because even a single bad experience in the past, whether it's directly happening to them or they've just heard about it from a friend or colleague, is going to result in mistrust leading into the future for any digital marketing agency that they talk to. So if that's the case, we know they don't really trust us. Why are we still delivering these 30-page reports that clients don't care about? Remember that your client came to you with a problem. They talked to a lot of different agencies or freelancers and decided to work with you because they figured that you were the best solution to the problem that they had. So if you're the solution to the problem, your report needs to reflect that. The best reports are short and simple and easy for clients to understand. And the best reports tell a story with the data, which means the presentation and layout of your reports are incredibly important. Most people don't engage a designer to make their reports look better, but you should. There's no reason not to engage a designer and make sure that they're visually pleasing. And the most important factor for success is really just knowing what to show on your report and what not to show. At the most basic level, your report should speak to that solution that the client has hired you for. You're providing the solution, make sure it's reflected in your report. And it's important to tie that report into the client's bottom line because they don't hire you to do SEO to get rankings. They don't hire you to do SEO to get more traffic. They don't even really hire you to get more leads. They hire you to get more sales, to sell more of what they're selling. So make it crystal clear that your SEO efforts have resulted in more sales. An easy way to prove that, and most people do this, is to concentrate on organic traffic and leads. None of the other metrics really matter. If you're getting them more traffic and more leads, then that should tie into more sales on the bottom line. So you could really just deliver a single page report with only metrics on leads and sales and organic traffic. But a lot of times you do have some clients that want more in-depth data or an analysis of what's going on. So why not do both? Display the important metrics on the first page for the owners or clients who don't really want more information or care about more information, and then include additional information on subsequent pages for the clients that need more information. And here's a crazy idea. Why not customize your report around the specific goals of the business that you're working with? Because you don't do the same SEO for every client you work with. So why should you deliver the same report to every client that you work with? More organic traffic and more leads are important, but they don't always mean that you're winning. Just because you're getting a lot more leads doesn't mean that they're good leads. And just because they're getting a lot more leads doesn't mean that they're selling more of what they sell. When was the last time you asked a client about the quality of their leads? And when was the last time you asked a client about actual sales? We're all good at connecting an increase in traffic to an increase in leads, but SEOs rarely connect an increase of leads to an increase in sales. And it's not hard to ask clients for more data on sales numbers. The beginning of every month, hey, send us the sales data for last month. Clients aren't going to be mad about that. They'll be happy that you're doing things that other agencies in the past haven't done. And you need to stop including bad metrics on reports, like bounce rate. Bounce rate is incredibly misunderstood. Most people don't understand how it works, and people shoot for a low bounce rate. But in reality, you probably want a high bounce rate because that means somebody found a page in search results, came to the site, landed on that page, and converted on that page, which means it would be a bounce in Google Analytics, unless you had event tracking or engagement tracking set up with some sort of events so that something can track that things happened on that page. But If you don't have any of that set up, somebody could land on the page and spend 10 minutes reading your content and another 10 minutes watching your videos and another 5 minutes looking at pictures and reading questions on the page. So they've been on the page for 25 minutes and then they pick up their phone and they dial the number, but you don't have a call tracking number. So nothing fires to Google Analytics, even though that customer spent 25 minutes on the page and converted. It's going to show up as 0 time on page and a bounce in Google Analytics. Time on site. Who cares how much time somebody spent on your site? Realistically, you want a small time on site because they didn't have to dig around to find what they're looking for. And pages for visit, same reason. And present of new visitors. The more expensive your item or service is, the more people will do research, which means it's more likely people are going to convert on a repeat visit and not the first time they visited. Or the number of links added. That's a deliverable. That's something that you do every month as part of what your strategy, your tactics. But that doesn't tie into their bottom line, and it doesn't tie into the solution that you're providing. So it shouldn't be on the report. And you really shouldn't be including a list of deliverables. If clients want that, you can send that as a separate list of deliverables or send it in an email, but it shouldn't be half of the report that you're sending. And for sure, don't include keyword rankings. Keyword rankings are inherently flawed. They don't reflect what humans see in the real world. Sure, we should do them because we need to see internally. That's something that we monitor. But the client doesn't need to see that. If they want to set up their own rank tracking, that's fine, but don't include it on your reports because you might double their traffic and triple their leads, but then they still get upset and you spend the entire reporting and strategy call talking about how they dropped from number 1 to number 3 for the one keyword that they care most about. And it doesn't matter that they're selling twice as much stuff as they were selling 6 months ago. So don't get confused about keyword rankings. It's important for us as SEOs. It's not important for clients, especially in local SEO, because those rank tracking programs don't reflect what someone sees in the real world because there is no location or proximity factor included in those. And yeah, that means the map grids too. Check this one out. Super cool map grid for New York, because it's good to know that a half mile offshore or a mile offshore, you're ranking number 1. I mean, look at this map grid. Literally, probably half of the map pins are not even over land. So how is this valuable information to the business? We need to stop delivering bad reports. Never, never, never include screen captures of analytics, or never include a report that just looks like Google Analytics. Don't deliver a report that doesn't have a story or context or insight into what's actually going on. A bunch of numbers don't mean anything. Make sure you're justifying the client's investment in your services, and never deliver a report that is nothing but ranking data. And another thing that happens all the time is people will show just a number. Hey, your traffic this month was X. If there's no timeline graph to show trends over time, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't do anything. You should also automate your reports and save time. Platforms like Data Studio are awesome. You've got Power BI you could use. It's a little harder to learn. Tableau, anything like that. But Data Studio is free and it's a pretty easy learning curve, and it's much more time efficient. Let's say you just save 30 minutes per report. That's 6 hours a year per client. But I did this in Utah, a week or two ago, and talked to several people afterwards that told me that they did their reports manually and spent 3 or 4 hours a month creating reports for each client. That's a whole lot of time saved, because you're going to go from 3 or 4 hours down to maybe 20 minutes. But even if you're just saving 30 minutes per report, that's 6 hours a year per client. And if you're billing at industry average of $150 an hour, that's almost $1,000 a year per client that you're saving, or you're making more money on. Or if you're saving that time, you can have more clients on the same team without having to hire, which means you're making more money. So start with automation, but then customize the reports per client. It makes more sense to customize and speak to those individual goals for each client. Make sure you're labeling report elements with questions and not the jargon that we all use, because things like this don't mean anything to clients. Sessions, users, goals. It's much better to label them with questions like, how many times did people visit? How's your organic traffic trending over time? How do people view your site? How do people get to your site? This tells more of a story. Make your first page a tear sheet for the owners and stakeholders, and only include that most important information that we talked about earlier that really ties into the business's bottom line. And then you can add more for the people that need more data, but the owners or stakeholders only really need to see the first page to know that they're getting ROI. Never display only a number. Even if you've got month over month or year over year change, that still doesn't show you an overall trend, especially with the fact that we're coming out of all of the COVID lockdowns. Year over year numbers don't really mean squat right now. If something looks like this and just says, here's your traffic and you're up over last month and up over last year, nobody even can do the math in their head of what is 77%. They don't know what that number was last year. So show a timeline. The same numbers make way more sense and tell more of a story if you show the timeline to show improvement. And you could tell an even better story if you add baselines to your charts. This is one of the things that we do at SearchLab. So let's say a client starts with us on October 1st. We would take October 1st of last year to the end of September this year, average that particular metric number together, and throw that on there as a baseline. So there's always a visual point of reference of where that client was before they started with us. And then you can add baselines for years as well. So in this one here, you can see this client was at 258 visits a month 2.5 years ago when they started working with SearchLab, and now they're at almost 5,000. They're actually above 5,000 now. This obviously stopped in July, but then you could see we added a baseline for 2020 so that for the full year of 2020, they were averaging 2,000 visits a month. So as you continue to go up, you kind of forget where you started if you only have that year window. So those baselines are amazing. And then if there's seasonality and traffic dips a little, client won't be as upset because they can see they're still far above where they were before. Then you could tell an even better story if you customize that report to address that client's particular goals or needs. And if the client is a local business, you want to be sure to include insights data from Google Business Profile information. Discovery impressions are a great way to show that you've improved visibility in search results without talking about rank tracking. Because discovery impressions are anytime that Google Business Profile showed up in search results, either in a map pack or in Google Maps searches, when the search query did not include the name of the business. So it's not branded searches, it's other searches that they've gotten more visibility for. You also want to highlight actions that were taken to show how increased visibility resulted in people that were more interested. So more website clicks, more phone calls, more direction clicks. And you should have UTM tracking on your URLs in your Google Business Profile. I've talked about that in past episodes. But if you've got that data on there, you want to include that in the report so that you can highlight the difference between clicks that come from the regular 10 blue links in the localized organic results and clicks that came from their Google Business Profile, or when they showed as an option in the map pack or in the local finder or in Google Maps. And don't be afraid to filter out data. One of our clients has a blog post that gets about 20,000 visits a month, but a lot of that traffic is international. And the client was freaked out that, geez, guys, this is screwing up my Google Analytics and my conversion numbers because we've got all this international traffic that's not possibly a client. But if you think about it, that means about 5,000 visits a month are local and could be potential clients. So we just created a view in analytics that cut out the international traffic so that they could see better numbers. And in their reports, we just filtered out the international traffic to only show the traffic that matters to that client. Because a lot of agencies and freelancers will show, hey, your organic traffic is way up. But if a lot of that traffic isn't local traffic that matters to that particular business, who cares? That's not really winning. Your local traffic could be flatlined, even though organic traffic is going up at a massive rate. So even better, why not always do that on your reports and filter things out and only show the traffic that matters? Remember, if you've got multi-location clients, you are going to need some sort of a basic roll-up that shows everything across the locations, but then you're going to need to have a breakdown page that shows information per location. If you need an example of an awesome report, I'm sharing our template for what we do in Data Studio. You can download it at the link right there. You're also going to need a copy of this Google Sheet. So on both of these, go in and make a copy and save it to your own account. The reason I built this stuff with a Google Sheet is you're able to pull any data into Google Data Studio, even if you don't have connectors. So I created this template in such a way that you could see how easy it is to pull in information from a sheet and just use the internal, hey, connect to a Google Sheet and pull data out of this. So makes it easier for you to put anything you want into reports when you see how that works. A few data studio tips I want to share with you as well. Alignment and design are really important. To make it easier for you, make sure you set your pixel grid to 10 pixels and you select snap to grid. That way, all the elements on the page will snap to that 10 pixel grid. It makes it way easier to align things without having to try to do it visually. You want to make sure that all the elements and titles and text are aligned between pages so that as you switch from one page to another, things don't shift slightly or jump around on the page. So if you're going to create a new page, and you're going to have a fairly similar layout, it's usually easier to just duplicate that page because then everything will be in exactly the same place. And you don't have to recreate everything on the page and then try to align it perfectly to how it was on the previous page. Make sure you understand page level filters. If you're creating an entire page about organic traffic, you don't have to put an organic filter on every element on that page. You can just create a page level filter that automatically affects everything on the page instead of only affecting that individual chart element. If you need to have two metrics on a graph, sometimes that is difficult. So let's say you want to show all traffic versus organic traffic on a chart. It's really hard to do. You could potentially do it with a lot of crazy coding, but the easiest thing to do is have two layers of charts. So the quote unquote bottom layer is the standard chart with the design that you have chosen. Then you create the second chart with no colors other than the data and the data line. And then you just line them up on top of each other. And now it appears to be a chart with two different unrelated lines on it. It's really cool. It's an easy shortcut. If you deliver better reports that tell a better story, you will have happier clients. And happy clients stick around longer, which means you win. Thanks so much for taking that crazy roller coaster ride with me today. Now, when you're thinking about delivering reports to clients, you're not going to feel like a basket case because I've opened your eyes to the power of delivering better reports. So you've got the key to create better reports that have a hook that keep clients around. So you can break out of your shells and do better marketing and deliver better data about that marketing so that your clients are happy. That was Freddy Krueger's Guide to Scary Good Reporting. There's my email address. As always, you can email me with any questions, or if you'd like a copy of the slides, I'm happy to send them to you. And as always, there is a list of all of the movies by order of release date at the end. So for sure, you should get this because, hey, it's almost Halloween and we want to watch some scary movies. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around to watch the whole presentation. That's definitely all the time we've got left for this week. So you know what that means. Put your hand on the screen right here. We totally just high-fived because you learned something awesome. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of Local Search Tuesdays.